Hey guys, welcome back to another Six Sages Gaming Deck Spotlight. Today we have for you the list that Robert Phillips piloted to a third place finish at the UK Regionals from this past weekend. And we really are excited about this list because it's not something that has been popping up a lot. Lightning Water is certainly unique, and as you guys know, here by the end of the week we will be doing our kind of mid Opus II meta report, and this most certainly deserves that honorable mention, so we won't be including it in the video, but I really want to do this own video on this specific list. So again, huge kudos to placing third with a unique list. So this deck is going to be all about having the standard lightning package with Al-Cid, Onion Knight, Rygdea, Kain, all the good stuff, Amon for all your guys, and then it's using the water as support. We can use Tidus to just blitz ace them out of the game at the end. It obviously has Minwu and Astrologian, which are very strong on their own. So I really like a lot of what this deck has going for it, and I think it's just a very powerful deck in the right hands. So first we're going to be talking about the forwards, then talking about the summons, and then finishing it up with the backups. So let's get right into it. So up first we have Rygdea. Of course this is going to be working very well with Al-Cid to bring it in, be able to kill one of their guys and dull something. But it's not to be missed that this also works with things in the deck like the Cyclops, the Black Mage backup, and a few other cards. So it's just a great 2-drop versatile card that can help dull one of your opponent's forwards out of nowhere and help you get in that point of damage. Cards you want to be clearing the way for example, is Kain. Now, a card that also has its value if your opponent leads with a 6K and you get to play Al-Cid into Kain, get in a point of damage, and remove their forward, that can certainly be a tempo swing in your favor. So this deck definitely has a few tempo elements built into it as well. And it's not to be missed that his ability to pay one and dull him to, it's basically jump, for those that have played the video game series, to deal 10k on the next turn doubles his power, which can really help in the late game, then push through for some points of damage. So Kain is very versatile in when he's coming to play. Most of the time I really do like just playing him off Al-Cid, unless you have Amon in play already. Sometimes paying 3 for him is not going to be where you want in terms of just vanilla effects. Now a card that is great, as you play it on 3, is Ashe. Now this is a card that's been getting a lot more popular, at least out of the UK, and it was very popular in the Germany report, if I remember. You can check those out on Lognet under the blog section. But Ashe can't be killed by the lightning-based cards because she gets plus 6k in the process. The most they can do is 11. She goes up to 13, so that she just gets to ignore those effects. Also, the fact that she can activate herself can always threaten a blocker. And then I'm sure her special to get 2,000 power in first strike can really add to that as well. Now, you're not going to be able to live the dream in too often and activate and use the special because that costs an insane amount. But there can be a few situations where it might win you the game and it's worthwhile to do it. So Ashe is definitely a card that's been picking up in popularity with the rise of Mono Lightning, which we will be covering in our meta report. 3 Onion Knight, absolutely no surprise here. Again, it works very, very, very well with Al-Cid. And of course, again, especially if you want to trade up, you can play Kain, suicide him into one of their guys. It has 5,000 damage on them, play the Onion Knight, finish off the rest of its damage, and you still have a 6k on the board. Yes, that's probably not the ideal situation, especially when Kain has the ability to double his power, but it gives you an idea of you can sacrifice off some of your smaller guys you might not care about, and then follow up with Onion Knight because there are other opportunities for you to do that. 2 of Amon, really no surprise here. Every lightning deck has been running this as a 1 to 2 of. The mono lightnings run 3, but most decks that are 2 elements have capped out at 2. And the biggest reason is it's just not a card you want to see early. Amon is something that wants to come down either once you've established a board state or you're winning in damage, so he can come down, guarantee you 1 more point of damage, and then on that very specific turn, threaten lethal if you just get to dull one of their blockers. So it can put your opponent in a very tough position. Playing 3 of these, again, just feels terrible unless you're in Mono Lightning and maybe you can sage it back, but I've been finding that 2 is the right number in most decks. 3 of Tidus. Again, as we've been finding, Blitz is a very good effect at just closing the game when you need to. If you're really, really cheeky and get to live the dream, there will be some instances where you'll have Tidus, and whatever other cards in your hand, and a Red Mage on the table, so you can haste Blitz ace them out of nowhere. Again, that might only happen, 1 out of every 20 games, but it does happen at, a non-zero percentage that makes it good. And then the other thing to note here is that because it combos with Al-Cid in the sense that Al-Cid puts 2 guys on the field for you, so he's going to get powered up to a 9k very, very easily. Again, 9k is kind of the magic number in the deck, so it works insanely well with Al-Cid with being able to flood the board and get more guys out there for you. So no surprise here, this card is still really good. Pretty much the guy who changed the meta by himself by just existing is Al-Cid. Again, 4-drop 6k might not be all that impressive, but if anyone has done any amount of playing with this card, getting to play Rygdea off it, tapping down one of their guys, or killing one of the guys, tapping down another, getting to swing through for the game is really, really good. With Onionite, it can threaten killing one of their biggest guys. So Al-Cid certainly has been doing a lot of work in this meta, and that's probably why we've seen the rise of water to Minwu-based decks or Minwu effects in the sense of Larsa or even Cecil. But I think it's going to still be a very good card that people should consider and not necessarily shy away from. So Al-Cid is absolutely going to be here to stay. Then we have the last 4-drop, which is the 3 of Wakka. Status Reel, it just turns out really, really good, especially if your opponent's playing Golbez or something. And if you can Status Reel it so they don't get the break effect, that's certainly very good. I've won a number of games with just having Wakka, Tidus, and one other irrelevant guy out there where I was able to attack with Wakka, pump Tidus, Wakka dies, whatever, who cares, and then be able to Blitz Ace with Minwu on the board for the win after that. So it certainly helps by pumping up your team and making one of your, making Rygdea a relevant attacker late game, or maybe you have a Cyclops so you can help threaten things otherwise, but his ability to pump something is just extremely relevant when you're playing like the Onionite, the Rygdea, all the lower guys that might not be able to push through for damage on their own. And again, Status Reel is just very good. Now here's a card that I am a little sour about. I have talked to both James and Jamie, who are the 2 people who had won it was Norwich and Darksphere regionals, and in talking to them, quite often I ask, okay, well, why has Cecil been very good for you? I've had my own mixed feelings about it, and I've personally felt that it's not that good. And quite often they were saying, well, my opponent didn't read my card, or they didn't know what Cecil did, and that was their justification for saying why Cecil is good. In some cases that just might be enough. Mistakes are going to happen in TCGs, but I'm not terribly sold on the card. What I'd like to be doing recently is doing a 1-1 split or a 2-1 split with the rare Cecil, just so they have to tackle that first, and it's still a 9k with Minwu to protect it, which does some interesting things. So I do like Cecil a bit more in the Earthless because you have other ways to protect him, Titan, Golem, some other effects, but it's really interesting to see this card evolve. And again, for the same reason why Ashe is good, Cecil can be good in those limited contexts, but I think it's a very interesting card that I wonder how this is going to develop the meta as people adjust, they read the cards, they understand the interactions, and really learn that more in-depth mechanics to the game. So Cecil is certainly a good card, but I don't think it is as hype as everyone wants you to believe. And then a 1 of Lightning. This is really just for tutoring up Odin in the deck, so it's another 9k, which again, 9ks can be extremely relevant. Sometimes the power level can be a little bit low on your cards, and it's a 4-cost, quote-unquote, 9k. And again, being able to find Odin is certainly beneficial as well. I would have liked to see one more Lightning in the list, just for the potential army of 1, but certainly room was tight. Moving on to summons, we have 3 Cyclops. It's an EX burst, and it can shrink their entire team. It also is very, very helpful against the unblockable type of decks, or Zidane if you just need to be able to kill him. And also, not to be missed, can help things like, again, Rygdea, Onionite swinging for damage can then trade up to a 9k, or if they have just an 8k, you can they block unfavorably. There's a lot of battle tricks that Cyclops offers. An interesting card as well is the Impure. If you look at the meta report, and if I'm not mistaken, all the top 4 decks splashed water and or had 3 copies of this. It was perhaps the most played card or the summon in the top 8. The other thing I want to note here is, again, I had the opportunity to talk to the winner from the Darksphere event, and again, we have this very similar issue where people are mistakenly tapping out, playing things before combat, where this card goes from quite literally unplayable in combat to, oh wow, you just did all that, now let me punish you for it. So on attacking, if your opponent just swung out, this card is certainly good. But at being a 4-cost, I think it's simply too high for this specific deck. If this deck ran the Yuna that made it a 3-cost, I could certainly see room for it. But this is another card, again, I want to understand how good is it really when your opponent is sequencing their turns correctly. You know, is it playable as a 4-drop? I personally liked it as the 3-drop variant when you play Yuna. But I'm definitely interested in what you guys think. So down in the comments below, the question for this video, we're going to try to do that now. Let me know what you think of this card specifically. How do you like it as a 4-cost, and what do you think of it as a 3-cost? Because I think those are two very different discussions that we need to be having. So drop your comments down below, and we will get back to that. Probably be some very interesting conversation. 3 Odin, no surprise, just being able to break anything 4 or less is amazing. And Odin will just always be playable until we get some kind of better summon. Moving into the backups. Now this is the one editor's note I want to make. I didn't have 3 red mages. I don't know where my 3rd red mage went, so I put in 2 black mages for the sake of this video. So again, the original list only ran 1. I'm going to run 2. I was talking to the other Matt about this, and I'm going to play this deck at the Wednesday locals, and this is one of the changes that I would have made, if only because it can help with Rygdea, it can help with getting in some early points of attack. And I think Black Mage is just a really, really good card. Being able to shrink something by 4,000 power is great. And it can also help you get around Minwu or Minwu-based effects. That can be very, very critical to winning a game. Then, as I was talking about, Red Mage, again, just be able to give something haste. So ideally what your backups want to look like, unless you had the Black Mage, is Red Mage, another Lightning backup, and then probably the other water backups. You can use Astrologian, which we'll talk about in a minute. But of course, that's not going to happen every single game that you get your ideal backup configuration. But as you're building decks, and as you're, what I always like to do as a building exercise, always think about, okay, what 5 backups do I want to see every single game? Like, those are what you should always be focusing on. Now, of course, if you're playing Ice, which you guys know is one of my favorite elements to play, the Ice Earth, for example, Devout doesn't really count towards that equation because it does break itself. That is something you have to consider where you can't go to 5 and you're locked out of Devouts, unless you have one on board already, so that is something to consider. But hopefully you guys will take that into consideration. Now here we go, talking about Astrologian, it's 2 of, just being able to activate on E4. Now that is a very, very strong effect when we are able to threaten cards like having Minwu on the table, which obviously, you know, Minwu is good people anyways. It is a common unit, common soldier standard unit, so you can have 2 of these on the board at a time, so you can have one that pays towards the cost of the other. And it's just a great 2-drop in water, and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I'd be hard-pressed to imagine that this isn't the best 2-drop water backup, besides maybe Yuna. But then again, Yuna is only really great if you're running a lot of water summons, so that does really depend on the deck. But it's certainly either this card or the Yuna for the key 2-drop water backups to be playing. But again, if you're only playing 1 water summon, probably not that exciting. But activating effects, very, very strong. 3 Minwu. Don't really need to say a lot about this card. Everyone knows that it's just a water staple at this point. The 4s you control don't receive damage that is less than their power. So again, completely shuts off Al-Cid and those type of combos. And just being able to have this as a 3-drop is certainly great to curve into as well. 3 might be a little much, but you know what, the card is so good, you want to see every game, it's probably okay to run a 3 of. 2 Gramis, or just Grandpa as I call him, he tutors up Al-Cid. That is going to be your target every single time. Again, every game that you're playing with this deck, if you can hit all 3 Al-Cid, you're probably winning that game, unless of course they have Minwu or they have some way to like turn off its effect, but Al-Cid is absolutely critical to winning with this deck and part of the strategy for, again, comboing with Tidus to make him bigger and the other things it offers. So I definitely like running at least one of those in any deck that plays Al-Cid, which should be every Lightning deck. 1 of Seymour, just always a good card to have. Obviously this might not count towards our ideal backup, but it's a great card to have as a 1 of because it can break any 3-drop, and sometimes you just need to do that. If it's going to win you the game when you play him, why not? Then we have 2 Sage, just getting a card back. Maybe they dealt with the Tidus early. You find another one. You can Sage, get back to your Tidus, Blitz Ace for the win. Maybe you need that Amon at a clutch time. Bring Amon back. There's a lot of different utilities that you can grab. Now, again, it's not going to happen in this deck too often because your backups are they're configured pretty good for how they are and you can't break them. But it does bring back a character card, which is important. So maybe for some reason you discard Yuna early. You find out then that your opponent has Golbez as like a plan B, or was their plan A, but they just didn't see it. Then you go, oh crap, they have Golbez. You can Sage back your Yuna, bounce their Golbez, and then lock them out of the Golbez plan for the rest of the game. So always important to have that option. And then lastly, two of Heroic Yuna. I was talking to both James and Jamie quite a bit, and Golbez is just apparently not a deck in the UK because there's a lot of people running water, and of course that's going to make sense if they have Leviathan and Yuna. There's a lot of hate in water, Cloud of Darkness, for the Golbez decks, so that is certainly a good reason to not be playing Golbez, but I think you still want to have that insurance in the off chance you go against Golbez, because he is just a very, very mean person, and especially in best of one, he can win a lot of games that you might not be expecting him to win. So that's all we got for this list. Again, congrats to the pilot for going third at the regional with it. Again, I really want to take a moment to highlight his deck and talk about it, because I think that Water Lightning is certainly a deck that just doesn't get enough love, and I think it has the tools to get there. Might be the minor changes I make to the list before Wednesday, but again, I wanted to highlight his list, or at least as close to the list as I possibly could, and I will have a link in the comments below to link you to the blog post that has all the top 8 lists for the event. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff for more Final Fantasy TCG content. We're happy to keep doing this and doing all this stuff that we do for Mognet. Please, please, please check out FFTCG.Mognet.com for a card database and a blog that we're uploading results from all around the world. We love getting the content out there for you guys. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next 6 Sages Gaming Deck Spotlight. Have a good one.